The views expressed are not necessarily those of KSCJ and Powell Broadcasting Company. This program is not intended to replace the advice of doctors or other clinical providers. Consult with your practitioner to ensure the proper course of action for you.
Welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well on AM 1360, FM 94.9 KSCJ. This program is dedicated to your mental health wellness and brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency. Here's your host, Art Silva.
Good morning and welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well. I'm Art Silva and I'm with Family Services. And this is our show, our weekly show that we hope to bring you topics and help to educate the community on what you can do for your mental wellness. Joining me today are my friends from Family Services, Brenda Geisinger and Sandy Jacobsma. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Our show, When Things Aren't Going Well, is we're a United Way partner agency serving the Siouxland area. And this year, we're starting to we need to pay a lot of attention to our mental wellness. So the topics that we bring up, we encourage your participation. Either drop us a note, give us a call at Family Services at 293-4900. If there's something you'd like to talk about, if there's something you'd like to follow up on from our show, we'd be glad to go over this. Our approach is going to be a self-help approach. What can we share with you that you can use, either yourself or with your friends and families, to help improve your mental wellness every day? So today our topic is going to be mental health boundaries. So let's get the show started and start off with, let's get a little definition of what those boundaries are. Sandy, do you want to take that question?
Sure. When we talk about mental health boundaries, we talk about where do I begin and where do you begin? And how do we separate ourselves from others? Because it's really important to have personal boundaries for our emotional health, our mental health, in all areas. We know what financial boundaries are. We know what physical boundaries are, like the river, bridges.
6 foot distancing.
Yes, 6 foot distancing. Those are all physical boundaries. But when we're talking about psychological and emotional boundaries, it's really important to define who we are and how we take care of ourselves versus feeling that we have to take care of everybody else.
Oh boy, that importance of taking care of everybody else, it can be taken to extremes. We certainly want to feel that way, but I think you're talking about when we get out of those boundaries. And Brenda, your thoughts on that?
I think when you have poor boundaries, it really is a feeling of discomfort or resentment. And it's just really struggling how you feel if you have poor boundaries. So taking a look at that, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how is this interaction, or how am I feeling when I'm having this interaction? Am I a 6 or a 7 on discomfort or resentment? And really taking a look at that.
Why are boundaries important to your mental wellness? Sandy?
They're important because we need to, if we don't take care of ourselves, how are we going to help someone else? If we don't know what we can do and that we can do it in healthy ways, we are not going to be good for other people. And we also need to know not to be taken advantage by people. We need healthy boundaries to make sure that we do not end up being emotionally abused. You can be financially abused. You can be physically abused. So there's all of these different ways that abuse can enter in if we don't have healthy boundaries.
Interesting. Brenda?
I think it's very difficult for people to recognize, I'm having a poor boundary. If you don't know what you stand for, what your values are, and if you're rooted in yourself, and if you can identify your values, what makes you feel okay, how am I going to stand up for myself in a safe manner and not be aggressive, and how is this impacting me? And like Sandy said at the beginning, it's really about where do I begin and where do you begin, and how can we have a common connection, but not you overpowering me or me overpowering you, and having a shared understanding.
It's interesting when you start to break down relationships and how basic some of these relationships are. once you define the parameters that you're going to work within, what are the rules we're going to play within. So hopefully we have both people on the same page. I'm Art Silver, and I'm with Family Services, and we're glad you're with us this morning on When Things Aren't Going Well. I'm with Sandy Jacobsma and Brenda Geisinger from Family Services, both licensed therapists. And today we're talking about boundaries, mental health boundaries. Let me ask you, what are some of the examples, Sandy, let me ask you, what are some of the examples of emotional boundaries?
With emotional boundaries, it's part of that is being able to say, you need to speak to me respectfully. You need to hear what I have to say and respect what I have to say, even if it's different than what you have. Emotional boundaries there are topics I'm not going to talk with you about because they're hot buttons, and we know that, and we know that that can cross a line. It can cross a line physically. It can make people very angry on certain issues. And so that emotional boundary is where I need to set it so I feel comfortable with myself and I feel safe with myself.
Brenda?
I think part of the emotional boundary piece too is it can be as simple as time. If you're always late for an appointment or meeting your friend for coffee, that value of time, what does that do to you? It can come out sideways if you have a poor emotional boundary, and being able to express your need or want safely to the other person. This is what I need in this relationship with you. And there's a point of feeling safe and comfortable, but also being respectful and being able to say that calmly and not attacking the other person, but saying, this is what I need. And if I can't have that, then we need to come to an understanding what we're going to do with that situation.
You know, it's very interesting. We're coming through a period of time where we've had, I guess for lack of another phrase, close encounters of a different kind, being cooped up for so long. And I think that can redefine boundaries to a degree. Any thoughts on that?
I think some people may feel like they're very isolated or there's too much of a boundary. There's like a wall because you can't give hugs or you can't necessarily have face to face interactions as frequently. And being able to still connect with someone and working within those boundaries. If you're having a difficult relationship with a friend or someone, that doesn't mean you can't pick up the phone or schedule a FaceTime and still discuss why you're feeling uncomfortable. We are in a different situation right now on interactions, but it's working around those barriers so you can still have good conversations and connections, yet respecting each other's boundaries. It's okay to say, I can't have visitors at my house right now. I can't see you right now. It's not safe for me or it's not comfortable, and respecting that in another person.
Interesting. Sandy, any thoughts on that?
I think it's also with emotional boundaries, it's not making too many commitments. Because when we say yes, oh, yes, I can do that, and yes, I can do that, all of a sudden you're overwhelmed and you're feeling like you don't even know where you're coming, if you're coming or going. And that's really important to our emotional health, to figure out what can I realistically do, and that it's not wrong to say, no, I can't do that right now.
So it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, and I'm always a layperson here, I learn so much from you ladies. It sounds like as you go forward, there are definite benefits to personal boundaries, and maybe sometimes we just don't realize it and put ourselves in positions where it really stresses us. Um, w-
Absolutely. I think it's about taking care of yourself. You know, the old adage, put the oxygen on yourself first, and then you're able to help others or be with others. And that's really kind of what it's about, taking care of yourself first, and then you can connect better with others. That's self love, and what do you stand for, and what do you need, and what do you want?
Sandy?
I agree with what Brenda said. And, when we talk about to parents, especially parenting and like when you're adopting children or just in families, that the marriage has to be a priority. The children, are always there. They're loved. They need to be loved. They need to be nurtured. But if parents aren't taking time for themselves personally to do things with friends, but also doing things with each other, and nurturing that relationship, when they start distancing, they don't have the same emotional availability to give to their children.
This is a good place to kind of take our break because we're going to come back in the second half of the show and talk about what we can do. Let's identify some situations, the wrong way of doing it and the right way of doing it. We're glad you're with us this morning on When Things Aren't Going Well. We'll be back. Go grab another cup of coffee, another piece of toast. We'll be back with you in a few moments right here on KSCJ.
Let's face it, that happens to all of us. However, the pandemic has compounded all of our lives and activities. Even the simplest tasks seem harder. Hi, I'm Brenda Geisinger, the Chief Operating Officer at the Boys and Girls Home and Family Services. Family Services is a United Way partner agency serving children and families of our community, and we're here to help. If you'd like to learn more about Family Services, please contact us via email, website, Facebook, or phone Mary Pickens. At Family Services, we change lives.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well on KSCJ. Here's Art Silva.
Good morning and welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well. Sitting here, we're talking about your mental wellness. And with me, Brenda Geisinger and Sandy Jacobsma, a licensed therapist from Family Services. Good morning again, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
That was a good first half of the show, and we talked about defining boundaries, the importance of having boundaries, the impact of boundaries on your emotional well-being. So now let's devote this half of the show to looking at what can we do, giving some examples of, the healthy way of doing something and the unhealthy way of doing something. And all this meant for everybody's self-help, recognizing some of these things in yourself or your friends and how to go about trying to fix them, all for your better mental wellness. So with that, let's start off, if we looked at something that was a healthy response, like feeling responsible for your own happiness, and then the unhealthy side of that would be feeling incomplete without your partner. You ladies care to share your feelings on that?
I think it goes back to that self-esteem and setting your own boundaries and taking care of yourself first. And if you feel you just can't make it without your partner or your friends, you need to really take a look and do some soul searching or looking at your values and what are you missing and what makes you happy. What are the activities you can do or engage in? People are supposed to help us and supplement how we function, but they don't have to necessarily be our end all. And making that differentiation of where you stand can have the first step to setting up a healthy boundary with others.
Interesting. Sandy, any comments on that?
I think what Brenda said is really important.
Getting back to your own happiness, your self-esteem, that central point. Let's look at this one. How about friendships exist outside of the relationship? Now, that's healthy.
It's very healthy.
Now, on the other side of that would be relying on your partner for happiness.
I think friendships are really important for both people in a relationship. You have different interests, different activities, and then you can have mutual friendships too in a relationship. And I think that if you are always just dependent on your partner to be making you happy and to be defining what you do, it's not going to be a healthy relationship, because we need to develop interests that are our own and that are going to make us feel happy and that we're going to enjoy doing.
I think it's very difficult for the partner who also has that burden then. What am I supposed to be doing? What are they thinking? That's a load because they're trying to take care of their own well-being. And so it's that mutual respect of you are your person and I'm my person, and we have outside interests. And I think it makes the relationship more robust when you have different interests. When you first started dating, you were two different people and you had different interests, and it had that spark and you could have conversations because you're two individuals yet joining together. And if you don't keep that going, you don't keep growing as people.
Oh, boy, you hit that on the head. Whew. Tell you, you gotta stop and think it through. Let's give another example here. Okay, here's a healthy one. Open and honest communication. The unhealthy side of that would be game playing or manipulation.
I think, again, it gets back to what do you need or what do you want? If you have a stressful day at work or at home, if you're staying home, and your partner comes, it's okay to say, I need 5 minutes to regroup instead of coming home and taking it out on your partner and just land blasting them. Or saying, I need 5 minutes to talk to you and just touch base before we start our routine. It's being open and honest with one another of where you're at and what you're willing to give at that moment so you can respect yourself and respect them. And it's setting up that communication.
Great. Let's look at the next healthy and unhealthy situation. How about respecting differences in your partner? Now, that's healthy. The other side of that is jealousy. Sandy? Yeah.
I think that in relationships, sometimes people have different expectations of their partner. Is it okay to have a friendship with another female? Is it okay to have a male friendship? And what are the boundaries about that? What am I comfortable with? I think that's one thing that comes with, being open with each other, and that can make somebody jealous. I think sometimes people are jealous because the other person in a relationship has so many more things that they're interested in or they do, and the other partner does not have that. They feel more isolated and they haven't built up those hobbies and interests. And so they get left home or they feel, they don't have as many friends. And I think that's difficult too.
And I think it's then the willingness to say to your partner, I feel and I need. And so you can say, I feel very abandoned right now, and having a conversation or setting a definition of this is what I consider cheating on me if you're doing this and this and this. Or I'm open to you having lunch with your friend X amount of times. And this is how it makes me feel when you do that. Again, it's that open communication in a calm manner when you're both ready to have a discussion and define what works for both of you.
Okay, that's some good advice. How about looking at here's a healthy side. Asking honestly what is wanted. The unhealthy side is feeling unable to express what is wanted.
I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I keep talking about wants and needs, and it's being able to identify that and express it. The key to that is understanding the person who's receiving that message may be unwilling or not wanting to do that. And that's okay too. It's respecting that response you say. Just because you want it doesn't necessarily mean you get it. It's kind of like Santa Claus. You can say what you want on your wish list, and respecting that. And then what are you going to do with that?
We got one more here I want to share. How about accepting endings? Now that's healthy. Other side is unable to let go.
I
Sandy?
think that's a very difficult thing for many people to do. When things are coming to an end, and that can be in a friendship, that can be in a relationship, that is hard. Sometimes friendships can end where both people recognize this has not been good for either of us, and it's time to move on. We've outgrown each other, and that can be not just in a marriage, but in relationships with our friends, with colleagues, with other people. And again, that goes back to knowing ourselves and knowing what's healthy for us. And when people can't let go, that can become problematic because that's where you can walk into them following you, being harassed. We get into the whole issue of stalking. And sometimes that person just falls apart emotionally. And you might feel like it's your responsibility to help put them back together, but you're not the one to do that. They need to have other people come alongside of them.
Brenda?
I think what Sandy is saying is very accurate. It's when you're looking at your relationships, at what point do you just need to let it go and taking those first steps and having that dialogue? Or if you feel you can't have that dialogue, you just need to stop for your own safety and well-being. And it's looking at where you're at, or if someone is having that feeling with you and saying, we can't be friends anymore, I can't be in this relationship, and really recognizing what went wrong, what can I do next time, and honoring in that. And it doesn't always have to be negative, it can just be a life change. You know, you have high school friends and then you go to college and you continue on, and you may just decide we're in different places in our lives.
Well, we certainly covered a lot of ground today and learned an awful lot. So I want to thank you two ladies for sharing your expertise. It gives us something to think about. If you're out there in the audience and there's a topic that you'd like to talk about, or if you'd like to follow up on what we discussed today, please give us a call at Family Services at 293-4900. We'll be glad to take your calls, answer your questions, or put on a topic for a future show. We want to thank you for being with us this morning. We want to give a shout out to Jan Dewar and the world famous Mr. Jim Brigger. So all's good. We hope you have a great week. Thanks again for joining us this morning. We'll be back next Saturday morning when things aren't going well. Art Silver signing off from KSCJ.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Happy trails to you.